Alright, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how do we add a specific evangelistic arm to our current outreach programs. So like it says up here, that specifically is how do we add evangelism to our outreach team. So for us, what we got to do is we're going to start off with changing the connotation of the word evangelism. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I first heard this, I'm like, to me that makes me think of someone's knocking on my door at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay? So it seems to me from looking at what we do as far as our outreach program is we don't have a specific group that says, okay, this is specifically for evangelism. We do evangelistic things, but it doesn't seem like we have an actual goal already established, okay, as an evangelistic goal. Okay, now we can add an intentional evangelistic strategy to that outreach program, but we need to make sure that we set a goal and figure out what that goal is going to be. A lot of times when I've seen these programs in the past, it seems to be focused mostly on just adding numbers to our church. And if we're looking at evangelism, it's not just about that. It's how do we actually add people to God's kingdom. So it's not just, can we get more people here? Okay? So, like I said, there are 3 ways that we can do this. Okay, first off, we need to be trained on how to do this. So add training programs to our current outreach efforts so that we can train leaders. So we can't have leaders, or we can't have a team if there's no one to lead a team. Now, again, after that, we need people. So it says recruit people who will be willing to join this newly created evangelistic team and help them identify their personal evangelistic style. That was also news to me. I didn't realize that there was actually different styles and different ways to do this, because I had that preconceived notion of someone knocking on my door with a pamphlet and saying, here you go. Okay, or someone standing on a street corner or at a store giving out tracts, and that's not necessarily what we're talking about doing. Okay, and then the team leadership would establish methods the team would follow. Okay, so like I said, we need to add this evangelistic training, okay, to this outreach team. And there are several different ways that we can do this. But we first need to look at what we're doing now. Okay? So, most of what we're doing is, it seems like we're either trying to keep people here that we have or bring back people who we've had in the past. Which, like I said, isn't necessarily a bad thing. We need to make sure we're retaining membership and we're trying to encourage people who have come, maybe have dropped off to come back. So that's a good thing. We need to keep doing that. All right, we talked about doing the newsletters. We send out postcards. We let them know certain events. We're not stopping those things. So we're not really stopping things that we're doing as much as adding new things. Okay? So like it says, we need to expand our current things that we're doing. Okay. Another thing is some of our outreach, again, is long distance. Not a bad thing. Okay? Absolutely keep these things continuing. We work with the food bank, keep doing that. We do Operation Christmas Shop, keep doing that. But, like we've seen, we get a lot of support with these programs. I'm still in shock the fact that we had as many boxes as we did this past Christmas. But that also shows us something, is that we do have people in our church who are already going to be involved in these type of programs. The thing is making sure that we find the styles that work best for them, because, like we said, most people, when they hear this word, think of having to knock on some stranger's door or go house to house. And that's definitely not where we're going with this. Okay. So then we talked about this idea of we can develop that specialized group within our current outreach committees, membership committees, and things like that, that will focus specifically on evangelism. Okay? And then we keep talking about we need to train some leaders that we can grow this team, because you can't just have a team and stick people on it without giving us kind of direction on what to do. Alright, so then, how do we identify people who want to be part of this specific arm of this team? Okay, there's a couple different ways to do this. There's actually an evangelistic style assessment that's kind of fun to take. I didn't realize this thing existed until recently. And then there's actually 6 different styles of evangelism. Alright, so once someone takes the assessment, they would be able to find out what their style is. And then work within that style to, work as an evangelizer. So, the purpose of this self-assessment, again, for people to understand how do you interact with the world. So each of us do this differently. And what I found very funny is what I thought would happen and what actually happened when I took the assessment were not the same thing. Okay? So, the idea is you take the assessment, figure out what best suits you, as opposed to someone telling you, here's a step-by-step program of what you have to do. That might not work for you. It also might not work for someone who you're talking to. Okay, so, like I said, there are 6 different styles. The majority divided into what do we say versus what do we do. So, as far as what do we say, you have an assertive style, an analytical style, and a storytelling style. I really thought that I would be the assertive style. I'm sure it's a shock to everybody in here that they thought I might be the assertive style. I'm not at all. When it comes to this, I'm an assertive personality, absolutely, but I am not an assertive evangelizer. I'm actually an analytical evangelizer. I found that out after I did the style assessment. Okay, and it's funny because most of us, again, have that idea of the assertive evangelizer. This is the person who knocks on your door on Saturday morning, or is outside of a store, or is on a street corner, or is standing in front of a group of people giving a message. They said that actually makes up only about 3% of the population. But because a lot of times that's what we see, that's who's on TV, or that's who we run into, we think that most people would fit into that category. Okay? I'm an analytical evangelizer. That means I need to explain this process to somebody in a very logical way. So if someone were to ask me, and in fact Amber did this a couple of weeks ago. Amber and I were discussing, she asked me the question of, how can you explain the resurrection of Jesus Christ? And I said very simply, it's the only thing that could possibly make sense. If you add it up logically and you follow the evidence, it's the only thing that could possibly make sense. And we literally went through all of the evidence. Not just biblical evidence we pulled in. I showed her where there was some secular evidence that supported things that were happening. And I showed her how everything else could be impossible, all these doubts and things that people were trying to tell her, how that's not possible. You know, there's no way he could have fainted. There's no way that this many people could have seen him and been able to tell the exact same story because of the cross-cultural barriers and because of the language barriers and all these different things. But we went through all the evidence because I have the analytical style. Some people like to tell stories. Tell stories about here's what happened to me. Okay, here's what I experienced. That works for them. Other people, it's more like, what do we do? Okay, so somebody who's relational, this is the person who sits down with their friend when their friend's having a hard time. Okay? Invitational. This is the person who says, hey, there's a concert I want to go to. Okay, this group's coming to town, do you want to go? Okay, and then incarnational, this is those acts of service that we talked about. You know, where we're actually going out and doing something. But it's normally doing something for people who you don't know. So giving to the food bank, or working in this type of program, or working in that type of program. Okay, so we can set this plan for these types of efforts. So, like I said, we determine the role of the leadership the evangelism team will play. So establish a purpose, pair people with similar styles. You can also pair people who are different styles, so that you can have someone who focuses on words and someone who focuses on actions. Okay. Help people plan their own, whatever works for them, instead of saying you have to do this. Okay, and then link these teams to current teams that we currently have in existence. All right.